when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. And I felt as if it was honestly too early in a friendship to even be giving out 5 and 6 type of chances.
Right.
We are on national television. We are away on vacation. Even how we met, like, I felt like this was very genuine, but you're leaving with me nothing with examples of this person does not feel strongly about you just like you feel with them, and how easy it is for miscommunications to happen.
Right.
But it's all about how you handle that once that has happened. And I didn't like, how she's acted since. There were times where post filming, we still would bump heads, which in my opinion has clarified and solidified of us being acquaintances, us being castmates, being cordial, but calling that a friendship, I'm good on that.
I want to gab.
Okay, today we're gabbing with Noelle Hughley, the newest star of Summer House Martha's Vineyard. I'm so excited to chat with Noelle, who I think has been an incredible addition to the show. She's fun, she's funny, and she's not afraid to be an open book about her emotions, which is perhaps one of the most important things about being a reality star. So, Noelle, thanks for coming on today. How are you?
I'm good, and thank you for having me. I was looking forward to this. You just don't know.
Good. Well, okay, I'm going to read you a tweet that I put out a month ago. Almost 2,000 people liked it, but I just want you to show you that I'm not just blowing smoke because I have you on my show today. I said, I fucking love Noelle. She cracks me up. She's opening up about her life, and she's looking to mix it up romantically. The perfect addition to Summer House Martha's Vineyard. So I'm not just saying that.
That is one of the sweetest feels I could have ever asked for. So I love it. Thank you.
Okay, so this is your first season as a reality star, and it's quite the thing to jump into. And I think particularly with this show, because the filming schedule is pretty intense. It's 2 straight weeks in a house with people. You don't really get a break. What was it like filming that and then having this sort of big break and then now having it air and be out in the world?
Yeah, I would say filming it was the biggest surprise because this is my first time doing reality. So to know that you have a camera crew, literally more than, I want to say, like a group of 5 people basically following every individual around, was something that I had to get used to. And very much the comfort of the cast. They were like, hey, like, the best advice I can give you is to have fun, be yourself, and just block out the cameras. Like, don't get caught up in the surroundings of it, because then you might come across awkward or feel more stiff. They're like, just imagine you're here on vacation and that's the friend who is the camera person, and you're just having fun. And that allowed me to be more in the space of, it's like, okay, I'm enjoying my time with my friends. This is a vacation. Yeah, you are on reality TV, but at the same time, how would you want to see yourself portrayed, and now act that out? And that's very much what I was doing. Yeah.
That's really good advice. And since it's been airing, what's that been like?
Since I've been it's actually been great. I know that it was nerve-wracking to really understand that, wow, I'm putting myself on reality TV. Now this is opening up a room for people to, have their own opinions, but also get to know me. But the love, the feedback that I've received has been more than what I can ask for. Like, I'm always telling people that I'm so appreciative of them just telling me, that they enjoy me on the TV, because so much, you can sometimes get caught up in thinking that maybe you're oversharing, maybe you're, kind of being too vulnerable, but then it's so relatable. And there are people who very much appreciate it, because it's something that I'm realizing a lot of people wish that they can be more of that. So the fact that, is helping people get more comfortable with that, that's all I can ask for.
100%. Were there certain moments that have aired in this season that you feel like you've gotten the most feedback from viewers or from new fans of yours that like have stuck out to you?
Yes, I would say, besides like people saying that they really enjoyed the Southern hospitality,
Yeah.
Southern meal, people did, have their comments about the summer situation. I more so received with that, and then kind of the Alex thing. I feel like I received my harshest, opinions, probably with the phone call with my mom, and people not understanding that I wasn't crying to my mom about Alex. I was just very much catching her up on everything that was happening thus far. Because I talk to my mom every single day and I love her down. And then also too, with people assuming that I should have been more aware of the relationship, like of how Summer was treating me. And at the time, I didn't know that. And you're trying to give everything the benefit of the doubt. And of course, I didn't want certain questions that might have come across as an insecurity with me questioning her if she's really my friend to like play that. I didn't want that to play out on camera. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to assume that that's just in my head. But as we see, things very much did play out as listen, what's done in the dark shall come to light. So
Okay. Got it. And okay, so before we jump into the drama, I'm curious because obviously you came in as Summer's friend. That was sort of the connection that we learned of for you. But what were some of the unexpected relationships that you feel like you really grew through this show, or you feel like really blossomed kind of as maybe things with Summer were a little bit more topsy-turvy?
yeah, I would say my like relationships as Jasmine, we actually ended up becoming roommates.
Oh my
Like
God,
towards the end of the
stop.
vacation. Yeah. So she after the couples weekend, she permanently moved into my room, which I appreciated because I'm like, hey, I got 2 beds. I enjoy the extra bed, but hey, be my guest. That's my girl. Of course, as you see, the meow meow. So Shanice, Bria, but also I did really get to form a good relationship with Jordan as well. And it was something where I feel like I got to really know her for who she is instead of kind of like being, going from a fan's first season to now being on the show and being like, oh, I might have had questions about this. Just getting to have a better relationship with her one-on-one was also something that I was looking forward to.
That's really great. And I'm curious because I feel like in the most recent episode or two, there's been a little bit of a implication, I guess, that there was sort of a divide in the house a little bit in terms of like it was like Summer Preston and Jordan, but then there was Bria and Shanice over here. Did you feel that divide as a new addition? Because we saw Summer sort of talking about that to different people.
I definitely did. It was noticeable, but it was also something that I was kind of previously aware of prior going into the house of who was already closer to who. And I'm knowing that with situations like this, we're not all going to be the Brady Bunch. When we're out in public, we can be, but in the house, it's very obvious. And even then, the whole fact of there's also smaller cliques within those three, like those two kind of divided cliques was something interesting. I got to see how there are people who are more closer to other people than what you might have expected, or just because it wasn't captured on camera doesn't really show how close some people are. So that was also like, oh, wow,
Right.
surprising to see. And I also was able to see how some relationships change, where people, they started off as being close, where they were like freaking frack, but then towards the end of the vacation, they were barely speaking. So to see how all that will unravel within 2 weeks was very much a social
Experiment.
experiment.
Yeah.
Yes. That
Wait,
I'm like, wow.
who's an example of that last thing that they were close at the beginning and they weren't by the end?
Yeah, I would definitely say the entire group of Jordan, Summer, and Preston. Like they
Okay.
were literally inseparable, but you can tell towards the end that after this, everybody probably wants some time to really just, take a breather with, probably take a break, come back and discuss how that person made them feel. I would say people who grew closer, Bria and Jasmine, aside from myself, because I feel like I definitely grew close to everybody, but I
Yeah,
say Bria and Jasmine, I would say they really grew close,
totally.
despite what you might have seen with the whole Mariah situation.
They overcame that though, it feels
Yes, and
like.
it actually brought them closer even more, which I was happy to see. The guys, I feel like the guys were all just being the guys. And like I said, besides myself, I would say those
Yeah.
are the relationships.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good example. So, okay, you come in as Summer's friend, and I feel like the first big point of drama was you and Summer and this whole Alex situation.
Yeah,
And so I guess like the crux of it is that you didn't realize like how much of a thing they had essentially.
correct.
And my first question for you, Noelle, is at that first dinner, we
Yeah,
saw Summer yell out that Alex had been inside her. She
Mhm.
literally said those words. Did you just not internalize that what that meant? Or how did that not sort of connect for you in the Alex and Summer situation?
Yeah, so the sucky part of that all is the fact that I wasn't even at the table. I ran
Oh,
inside
that's when
at
you
the
ran
time.
inside.
Yeah, and I thought that like, and that was some of the things that watching it play back, it just gets to you because it's like we were sitting out there for over 3 hours. Like when we're having our dinners, it's people think like, oh, they're just out there for an hour. No, we're out there for a good minute. And we were talking about so many things, and it was something that was brought up at the beginning, but then the whole argument happened. We wanted to take a deep breath, go to the restroom. It was getting cold. And then it's like when half of the table or people who were supposed to be at this, if it was meant for them to hear it, my talking about me, the one time that I'm not at the table, that's when you feel like it's okay to say that. I thought that was odd. I thought that was rude. Even prior to the vacation, I asked her multiple times, like, what is the tea? Because based off of where y'all left off last summer, things look like it could have led into something. And I just don't want to feel like, we're about to be sister wives because, hey, that doesn't float my boat, but,
Right.
some it might. And she doubled down on her stance that I have nothing to worry about. Nothing happened between them. They just hung out. And so I'm taking her word for as it is. And why would she lie to me? Like, what does she have against me? We're friends. We're good. Like, this is nothing to worry about. And to see how things played out, to see how people doubled down on stances, to even know the depths of how far their relationship went back. It wasn't just a hanging out. This was a
Right.
multiple flying bi-coastal type of thing. It was interesting. And it just didn't feel genuine.
Right.
So
And do you feel like, because I feel like there's two ways to read that. And I think from your perspective, that's like she wasn't being totally upfront. And
mhm.
I would probably feel the same way if I were you. But I
Yes.
feel like I almost feel like part of it for her, considering sort of what else we've seen from Summer this season, I think like in
Mhm.
some ways, maybe it was her sort of like downplaying it so that she didn't have to feel, because I think that she felt some sort of way about it. She was kind of emotional about the Alex
Mhm.
thing. But I feel like by downplaying what it really was, maybe she's trying to like tell herself that almost. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, no, I definitely understand that. And I honestly, because when with like even the conversations that me and Summer had, like before the vacation, I don't feel like it was surface level. I feel like we went in depth about like family and personal
Right.
things. And I knew that she felt disrespected, but it was more so along the lines of like, hey, we're castmates, we're friends. Like, you know, how could you be rude and not invite people that we clearly live in the same state? We hang out regularly. So I was 100% behind her with that. I'm like, yeah, like if, I would be mad if somebody left me out too. So I very much feel like you should address it. But even prior to that, there are other things that we saw play out, which, played into the fact of more emotional things, which I can understand. And that's why, I didn't have a problem with always being there because I know even the Freaknik situation, people were like, you should have gave her your space, which now I realize, yes, I should have. But at the
Hmm.
time, I know that if I'm going through something, I would want somebody to kind of be in my corner despite me pushing them away. And I just thought it was more so like a cry of help of I still want
Right.
support. But I know that, it did look like, okay, you're overstepping that boundary. So
I think I read it the way that you're reading it, is that like
yeah.
she wanted somebody in her corner in that
Mhm.
way. So you obviously in I think in the most recent episode we saw you guys had a really emotional conversation, but that came after another sort of like tough drunk moment for Summer. And there was that moment where she pushes you when you were
Yeah.
trying to sort of like comfort her. I think that's kind of what we're talking about, as
Mhm.
she's fighting with Bria. And like one question for you actually is like, we saw last season that things, even if things got like slightly physical, like very, they got slightly physical, the other person got kicked out of the house or
Yeah.
voted out of the house. And like you didn't make a big deal out of Summer sort of like giving you a shove. And I'm
Mhm.
curious if like, is that just your nature that like you read it as not being like, why did you not make a bigger deal of that, I guess, considering
Yeah.
the
So
history of the house?
Yeah, so actually that is so funny. It actually ended up turning out to be something bigger where we had a house discussion, where we did discuss how we felt. And I did feel as if like, hey, if we're on the topic of double standards, the stuff that happened last season, I don't think that it is fair if somebody stays in the house because I'm like, at this point, if she stays in the house and this is going on strike two, it's kind of like we're setting the tone that this
Yeah.
type of behavior is okay from certain people. And everybody voiced their opinion. And, she was there too, where she got to hear exactly how we feel and how we felt. And we were able to hear her side too. And it provided more details because not everybody was aware of exactly what happened. People were just hearing that, okay, somebody got into it, but not to the point of where details were like, okay, that at this point, how many excuses are going to be acceptable where we still excuse this behavior? And so I don't want to give too much tea, but as we will be able to see that, I feel like because of generally how everybody else was feeling as well with the support of the decision, it was one of those things where she probably felt like, okay, maybe it is time where I just take a step back.
Yeah. Right. So that's a meeting that we have not seen yet, or we
Yeah.
just aren't going to see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We will see that. Got it. So you thought there's something deeper going on. That's sort of the crux of some of the conversation you had that morning after, and it got really emotional. Do you think there was something deeper going on upon watching it,
So
upon what you've learned since? Like, is there more going on with Summer?
yes, so I would say I was aware that there were some personal things going on where we talked about prior
Like
to
with
the
her grandma
vacation.
too? Okay.
Yes, and then with just personal things. And so I was always aware that that could be like a trigger. So that is one of the reasons, besides extending grace, because I would want somebody to do the same for me. That was one of those reasons why was fine with like, okay, she already did strike one. Strike two, I should really not involve myself, but I know that she's going through something, so I want to be there. But also too, I had to accept the fact that when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. And I felt as if it was honestly too early in a friendship to even be giving out 5 and 6 type of chances
Right.
where we are on national television, we are away on vacation, even how we met, like I felt like this was very genuine, but you're leaving with me nothing with examples of this person does not feel strongly about you just like you feel with them, and how easy it is for miscommunications to happen,
Right.
but it's all about how you handle that once that has happened. And I didn't like, how she's acted since. There were times where post filming, we still would bump heads, which in my opinion has clarified and solidified of us being acquaintances, us being castmates, being cordial, but calling that a friendship, I'm good on that. Unless God, sees different from my future, never say never, but I am happy where I'm at.
That was going to be my next question, is that what the status of your friendship is, but I think that kind of answers it.
Yes.
Okay. Noted. So let's get to the latest situation that you've kind of found yourself in, which is you, Shanice, and Bria, and then Natalie were talking on the hammock about Nick and how he can get handsy and has made some people feel uncomfortable. It was more like a general conversation, I feel like, upon watching it. But Natalie sort of took it upon herself to volunteer as tribute, bring it to his girlfriend Tasia. She sort of shuts her down. And
Yes.
I'm curious how you read that conversation or that interaction, because me as a viewer who knows these shows, I
Mhm.
kind of read it as Natalie kind of getting her moment and wanting to get her moment, and
Yeah.
Tasia not having any interest in participating in that
Mhm.
as it pertains to the show. Is that an accurate reading from your eyes, or was that an element of what was going on there?
Oh, yes, that was very much an accurate reading. And I'm honestly happy that Tasia did that, because if I was Tasia, I would have done the same exact thing, because it's just like, hey, Tasia was actually the only partner that was there the shortest amount of time. So it's just like, hey, for the amount of time that I'm here, present on television at that. Why are you trying to bring me something? Especially since last year, she was the only partner to experience that same type of, accusation of, her partner, blase,
Right.
blase, blah. So I was happy that she did that. And even then, I remember seeing Natalie go over there, and I, in the back of my head, knew exactly what she was doing. And I even confronted her once she came back to the table and said, why would you go over there and say something to her? I know exactly what you said. And she was just like, well, she was about to leave. And I'm like, well, what were you going to say? Because we told you on the hammock, do not say anything to her. And if you are, mention it on your own terms and your accord. Do not pull our names in it. Don't say he say, she say. Only mention what you saw and what you can attest to. And she was just like, well, that's what I was going to say. But, I wasn't able to talk to her, so it's okay. And so I thought that that was it. But minutes, like an hour or so probably passed by where we finally were able to go back to the house. You walk into a situation where now it's like Nick is already mad, and it's not like he's mad at the person who I'm thinking he should be mad at, which is Natalie. It's like now this energy is only directed towards me, Bree, and Shanice. And
Right.
I knew at that moment something else had to be said, because where we last left off at the lunch table was that you tried to speak to her. It didn't happen, and you
Yeah.
didn't. Why now am I walking back into, basically, it felt like court?
Right. No, it was
And
intense.
I'm like, yes, I'm like, why am I put on stands? Like, but if this is what it's going to be, let me defend myself.
Right.
I'm,
Well,
yeah.
I thought it was interesting because Natalie felt really eager to like bring it up to Tasha, but I felt like in the kitchen, she wasn't really
She was
quick
on
to be
mute.
forthcoming. Yeah.
Yes.
Is
She
that how it
was.
was in the moment too?
Yeah, that was something also too, because like I would say the conversation was about 3 hours. So I know that they could only fit so much, and it got heated to the point where people were talking over people, and they probably couldn't even understand it because that's how much like of an involvement it was. But Natalie was put on the spot, because I even said, like, from my cliffhanger, I was like, somebody stand up for me, because I felt like I was fighting for my life.
Mm-hmm.
I told her, I was like, speak up, say what you said, because something had to be misconstrued, or for you to relay a message back to him that is not touching bases on what we talked about. It is way worse, and now is being looked at as very much dangerous accusation.
And accusatory. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, people can go to jail for this. Like, this
And that's not where that's not what you guys were accusing him of.
Thank you. And I'm like, I get it. This is my karma for gossiping. Hey,
Right.
I mean, who doesn't gossip? But I'm like, how did it go from a simple, yeah, that might be viewed as flirtatious, I wouldn't want my man to do it, but hey, that's not my situation, to now, these accusations are misleading to where it's hurting my reputation, and she not speaking up upon that. And it's, it sucks. It sucks.
Yeah.
And I honestly also too wanted, my other castmate, Amir, to actually stand up and not be the buffer, but be the one to say, hey, maybe she shouldn't have said this, and I want to say, like, maybe this is something where only the people who were talking about him should be involved. And what did my girlfriend say? Basically, try to honestly be the mediator. And it kind of felt like we were on an island of our own.
What did you make of seeing those scenes where like he and Natalie had gone inside and like kind of were crafting the text to Nick?
Was mad.
Yeah.
I was mad. I was hot, just because it kind of felt like, is this an agenda? Why are you putting up, your friend, your girlfriend, to go and relay this message when it's something that she says she wasn't offended, it didn't happen to her, she didn't see, but yet now she's speaking on behalf of other people. Because even on the hammock, Natalie was very forthgoing about wanting to tell Tasia things that she's seen, that if that was Amir, she wouldn't be pleased upon. So we were like, okay, well, if you're going to speak on your own terms, you can do that, but please don't speak for us. Please don't put our names in it, because I just want to enjoy the vacation. And the fact that it was encouraged to speak on behalf of the ladies and make sure you include that they said this.
What's the agenda there, do you think?
The agenda felt like, hey, I want to go tell Nick some tea. I want to bring him some drama. The girls basically could have some information that could possibly blow up his relationship, not knowing how this can act, like not knowing how this can end, but it
Yeah.
definitely will be a good scene. And
Got it. Got it.
it was a scene that created drama
Little
that
producer
have,
vibes. Yeah.
yes, that we very much have a part two to, which it was something that was never meant to be that way. Because I'm
Right.
like, so you're telling me when the guys have guy chat, y'all don't gossip? And just imagine if somebody took what y'all said and told all the girls of every little nitpick, we would be guys, we would have these type
This
of
would happen every night. Right.
exactly. So it's just like, why are you okay with that happening
Right.
with us when we strategically and we double down to Natalie that do not include us? This is not what we want. It kind of felt like he was fine with us being blamed for something that we had no intentions on even making it back to Nick, yet alone Tasia or the house.
Right. 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 So Nick is pretty heated in that moment. He confronted you, he got super defensive, and you said in your confessional, if you're not guilty, why are you so mad?
Yes.
And then he said that you just wanted to be included. I guess from you, if he is not guilty, why was he so mad?
Yeah, so my comment actually, which it kind of sucks how like things play out,
Splice
but
and whatever.
the comment was actually in regards to Nick being seen as a flirtatious boyfriend. That's what I was relating it to, not to
Got it.
be
Handsy.
associated, with inappropriate behavior. Because listen, I'm the same way. If you say something wrong, say something that is a lie about me, of course I'm going to get mad. So I can understand him feeling that same way. But as far as with the comments, I have to say with the flirtatious boyfriend, it's something that also was a kind of like looked at as a joking matter around the house, where it was like, ha ha ha, Nick, you better be careful. That can be seen as flirtatious. And we would joke about it. And the fact that, if everybody in the house, if you're not doing stuff that can be if you're not doing things that can be seen as flirtatious, people wouldn't say that.
Right.
So
Where there's
that
smoke, there's
was
fire a
yeah,
little
so
bit.
that was the thing of my comment, which
Yeah.
I hate that it came across as insensitive, but it was along the flirtatious things.
Got it.
Inappropriate. But then even with what Nick had to say, I would give Nick that. He ate that little line about wanting to be included because of course, it's looking like I've never done, anything to you about along the lines that might have been mentioned, like with Summer and Jordan. So how are you having something to say when I'm like, I'm not, I'm just letting you, I was talking about my example or my experience on the hammock. I wasn't saying that you made me feel uncomfortable, but we were talking about how different things of how interactions could be deemed as flirtatious. And I just said mine. And so when he heard what I said, I gave him the example. He agreed, but
Okay.
how it was told to him, once again, it was told to him in a manner that I was accusing him of basically trying to get with me. And I'm
Right,
like,
which is not the case at all.
Like how extreme did these rumors go?
Game of
Because on the
telephone,
Richter
yeah.
scale, it's given that it was a 10. And the way that we told it, it was a 2. It's just like,
Yeah.
what?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay, so Noelle, you guys recently filmed the reunion, the first
Yes.
reunion for Summer House Martha's Vineyard. Going into that taping, what did you most want to address or bring up?
I honestly wanted to most address like 2 things. Definitely the situation with Amir, Natalie, and what happened on this most recent episode. But I also wanted to talk about with me and Summer and provide more insight because I know people definitely did share their opinions. I know it looked more crazy than what it is, and even how things played out. I looked more naive and looked more dense. And it's just like, y'all, I'm not. And listen, I get it. People make mistakes, but I didn't know the depths of certain situations, even first of all, at that time. But then as we're filming on post-production and even seeing it in 4K, you're just like, wow, there was so many things that you were comfortable with sharing your story with multiple people, but not the person who you brought in. And we talked about this topic. So I want you to know how I felt and how, because of you not being accountable for what you did, how a lot of that fell back on me, and I will, be always accountable of how I, entertain something or, partake in something that was never meant for me. But at the same time, it's just like, you could have helped me too, girl, especially if you were already going to have laid out everything that you wanted to say to him at every moment.
Right. And then you bring these things up. How did it go? Are we going to see any resolution? Anything unexpected?
You're gonna first of all, you're gonna see a lot of tea. Like there gonna be a lot of stories that are going to add
context.
Yes, it's going to add context, but it's also going to add more questions to, well, how deep does this story go and how serious were y'all? Also, too, you're going to see people who you're like, oh, wow, like I'm glad to see that they made amends, but you're also going to figure out who fell out since then, the show. You're going to see a lot of, I'm glad to see that a lot of people are speaking up for themselves, and you're going to see very much a lot of people arguing and getting into it and dropping bombs, but also too, you're going to see a lot of people keeping it cute, short, but very much to the point where you're like, logic will always win. Just because you're the loudest doesn't mean you're correct. Yeah.
Got it. And Noelle, I feel like, one last thing is like, I feel like one of my, I love the show so much. One of my only notes, I would say, is like, there are so many single women in the house, but there are not that many single men in the house. And I feel like that creates a little bit like of an imbalance in some ways. Do you agree with that?
I do agree. And it's just like, I love everyone who is in a relationship. Cheers to relationships.
They're great guys.
But at the same time, bringing in single people, when we had Hendrix come in, how much of it have an energy shift that was, even having our friends and family come in towards the end of the vacation, it just adds in a different perspective too, where you're like, oh wow, like I want to have more fun. And it also kind of takes away such a responsibility too, because you're like, hey, like I don't want to be stiff. Like I definitely want to make sure I'm being aware and appropriate so that nobody is feeling uncomfortable. But at the same time, I want some single hot men. I want to do truth or dare. I want to do like dare or double dare. Like these are the things that
not having that sort of
random kiss. Like I know,
not having that sort of takes an element out of the show.
Yes, like that is what adds to it, especially too, because you're like, I want to have fun, go out on the vineyard. Like there were so many times where after we'll party at the house, go out to 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning in the vineyard, at the bars, the little clubs and whatnot. And it's just like bringing more people, more vibes. They're bringing in more friends. Like it's,
and and I also think that probably added to the Alex thing of it all, because like he was like the only person. You would put all your eggs in that basket because that was the only basket to be open.
Exactly. And I also caught flack of like people like, oh my gosh, Noelle, you're talking to Alex. Why would you talk to him still after he turned you down? And I'm like, y'all, like, first of all, that whole thing barely remembered. So imagine waking up and being like, wow, I don't even remember everything I said because you were drunk. Second of all, I'm like, people are expecting people to not talk to housemates in a house. Do people not realize like how uncomfortable it would be, to go out your way to avoid talking to your housemates? Like, it's just like, y'all, like one thing I do like is that this has taught me more and more to be able to mean what you say, address the problem or situation then and there, but go to bed, wake up the next day and move on. Like, don't harbor over feelings, conversations, for too long. Like very much make sure your point is heard, but move on. And it definitely helps the flow of the house. Because if one person's stuck on something, everybody else will eventually be on that way. But if everybody is moving on and like, I'm just making the most of it, then the vibe of the house is upbeat.
And stay up. Yeah, totally. Oh my God. Well, Noelle, this has been so much fun. I feel like I got so much great context from this conversation and just so much good insight. And again, I really am loving you on the show. I'm really enjoying the season. So I hope we get a lot more from you and
Me
the rest
too.
of the cast.
Look, I want to do this again. Like, very much we need to do another recap after the season's over.
Down. Noelle, thank you so much, and we'll chat again soon.
Thank you. You too. Have a
Bye.
good one.
I want to gab.